Perfect.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Code for America National Advisory Council South Regional Candidate Forum. That's the official title, by the way. My name is Jason Hibbets. I am with the Open Raleigh Brigade, formerly known as Code for Raleigh. We'll be making our name change here this week. I'm currently on the National Advisory Council running for at-large, and I participated in the at-large forum last evening. A couple of housekeeping items. First of all, thank you everyone for being here this evening. We value the time that you're taking to learn about the candidates and for the candidates to be here and to share their views and their positions on how they would like to improve the Brigade Network. And so let's see, for those of you that might be new to Zoom, in the upper right-hand corner, we have, you can switch between speaker view and grid view. We ask that if you are not speaking, and tonight we're going to be focused on the candidates, that to use your mute button, which is in the lower left-hand corner. It looks like everyone is muted, so thank you for keeping down the background noise. We are recording this, and we will be replaying it via a Medium post tomorrow. And then simultaneously, we have the Midwest Forum happening right now. So if you would like to catch up on the Midwest folks, that will also be posted as well. I will be the moderator this evening, and Veronica will be our timekeeper. We will give you approximately 2 minutes for the first set of questions, and then Veronica will give you a 30-second warning and then a time's up warning, and then we'll move on to the next candidate. So it looks like I want to make sure that I have all the candidates because I do not know who 9HOYNWJJSP that person is. So the candidates that I have in attendance tonight are Patrick, Mateo, and Laura. Is anyone else on the call that is a candidate that would like to be that would like to join the conversation tonight? Okay, seeing no hands raised or voices, we will continue with those candidates. I will go in that order for the first question. So Patrick, you will be first, and Mateo, you will be on deck. The first question, 2 minutes for this. And during the first question, just please give a brief introduction of yourself, what brigade you're with. The first question tonight is, what's your top priority for the NAC? Patrick, it's all you.
Sure. Hey, I'm Patrick Bentley, and I am currently with the Open Savannah Brigade. So I think for me, the top thing that I want to work on in the NAC this year, if elected, would be to open up some better ways for us to collaborate as a larger brigade. So I think that there are a lot of projects and that can help in a lot of data sets that some other brigade has already done. And I think there's a lot of, we're replicating a lot of work and duplicating a lot of work, I guess is a better word. And so for me, I think that having the regional brigades work together in a more intentional manner would be a really great thing for us, and it would only help to increase our capacity.
You still have some time if you want to take it, otherwise we can.
No, I mean, I think that's it. I mean, I think so. I guess to go a little bit further than that, I think that outside of having the Congress and having the summit, I think it would be a really good idea for maybe the state brigades, like for instance, the Georgia brigades, Atlanta and Savannah, to meet physically, maybe at least once or twice a year, and ideally to work on a project together. Because I think that there are different levels of expertise in those communities, but I also think that we've probably got some institutional knowledge in both of those groups that would allow us to create something that could benefit the entire brigade. So I think it would be really interesting just to see how we could organize some regional or state brigade meetups.
Fantastic. Thanks, Patrick. We'll go to Mateo, and Laura, you're on deck.
Cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Mateo Clark. I am the former brigade captain here in Austin. I'm actually at our hack night. I'm in the second floor of an abandoned library. Everyone else is downstairs. And yeah, Vicky, who is another candidate running for Austin, who you should vote for instead of me, she's downstairs running the event. So shout out to her. To answer the question, top priorities for NAC, I think the folks that have been involved have done a great year, or done a great job over this past year, setting up what NAC is, what it means, and just providing that voice. And I think they did a great job organizing Congress and creating things like BATS, the Brigade Action Teams, and setting up this election. I think where there's room for improvement from my perspective and kind of through my experience is I guess being more transparent or like more open about what meetings are happening, posting minutes. I know it's a lot of work to do that, but sharing more about decisions that are made through blog posts. I think I applaud everyone for giving the extra time on top of being super involved with their brigades to be in NAC. So I don't want to be critical, but I think that's an area where we can not even necessarily need to be a NAC member to observe or participate in some of the meetings that go on, kind of the same way that at your city council meetings, there'll be time for just anyone from the citizenry to, voice their opinion or citizen input is what they often call it. I think there's room for that at the brigade level too, where we can make the process more open and kind of train people to see how things work so that whenever they do run, they can hit the ground running and be really effective.
Great. Thank you, Mateo. All right, we'll go over to Laura. Laura, what's your top priority for the NAC?
Hi, I'm Laura. I am with Code for Durham. Hi, Greensboro. Hi, Durham. Hi, Charlotte. That's really exciting that you guys are on. And the pizza box was in the window right in front of Greensboro. That was a really nice touch. My priority is a plan, like a strategic plan. I agree with Patrick on collaboration, and I agree with Mateo on communication. I agree with Taylor wants a mentoring buddy program. Dawn wants to help people with leadership burnout. Chris wants to help on more open software. There are so many things that all of the people, 30 people, want to continue and do with NAC, and I don't think that we have to necessarily decide between all of them. I would just like to start with a plan that outlines what the brigades do want to do, maybe where we want to be in 5 years, like when we grow up. Do we want to just strengthen the brigades that we have now? Do we want to try to build a system that can help foster new brigades? I think the process for the strategic plan could be really good. That sounds super government-y, if you can tell I've been with the government, if I would get excited about strategic planning process. But I think it would be a really good time to get input from brigades. It would also be a great time to get input from our external stakeholders. And then once we have a plan, that's something that we can really help to communicate around and help to collaborate around. And when people are like, oh, you have a mission and a vision, now we can say, this is what we're doing to get to there. So, strategic plan.
Great. Thank you, Laura. All right, we're going to move on to our second question for the evening. Mateo, you will be first, and Laura, you will be on deck. Our second question this evening is, what's a learning from your local brigade that you want to apply at a national level? Mateo.
I think when everyone thinks of the brigade program, we often think about designing and developing software. Kind of the bread and butter is often like code and repos and collaboration on GitHub. I guess one thing that I would like to see at the national level is some discussion and some shared analysis on some of the policy issues. I think more and more problems are being faced at the local level. Our city council members aren't often technology experts, but they're having to make decisions about should we subsidize an Amazon headquarters, and what do we do about artificial intelligence in our police force? And that's an area where a lot of brigades have folks interested and active. And I think it'd be really cool if collectively we collaborated on some policy issues. So what we've done locally that I think has room to grow, every year that there is a city council race, mayor race, we have kind of a candidate questionnaire that we send out to all the candidates, and we put all the responses on our website, and we spend one specific meeting usually in November, kind of going through the results and talking about it. We don't endorse anybody, but we talk about people's responses. And I think that's a really cool way to get people engaged in who represents them at the the most micro level. A couple other things that we've done here in Austin is partnering with policy-focused nonprofit organizations. For example, the Austin Technology Alliance. We basically, in past years, we've created a policy agenda. This year, the leadership has partnered with ATA to put both of their names and both of their ideas, which I think has a lot of power to it. And then finally, we've done some stuff on the international level, actually through the Open Government Partnership. So Austin was selected to represent, North America, basically, at kind of this international level. And so there's learnings we've had, and I'll shut it.
Great. Thanks, Mateo. All right, Laura, you're next, and Patrick, you're on deck. Laura, what's a learning from your local brigade that you want to apply at a national level?
This is, I don't know how to put it into one thing, but I feel like it's maybe how Durham is part of a bigger picture, but it's also unique and to ourselves. So you probably heard a lot. We work a lot with the other North Carolina brigades. There's part of this Open North Carolina Collaborative. Like as long as I've been a part of the brigade, it's never just been Code for Durham in isolation. It's always been Code for Cary, Code for Raleigh, Code for Greensboro. Like it's always been part of a bigger picture. We may not be doing the same things, and we often don't. The projects we have might be separate, and each of the brigades is different. Each of the communities is different. Raleigh does a lot of projects. Asheville doesn't really meet. Charlotte has its own executive director. I feel like in one state we run the whole gamut. But the thing I like is that Durham, we don't feel pressure to be an event brigade. We don't feel pressure to start a 501c3 tomorrow or have to hire an executive director. Like we're okay. We're more of a project brigade, and I think that's really awesome. But then we still find ways to play well with others within our state and how we can work together. So how that relates to the NAC, I think it's probably just being mindful. There are lots of different ways that Code for America can look throughout the country, and how we can support the individuality and also the connections.
All right, thank you, Laura. Last but not least, Patrick, what's a learning from your local brigade that you want to apply at a national level?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that I really like about the Open Savannah Brigade is the diversity that we have, and not in typical terms, of ethnic background, but in terms of the amount of technical know-how and the different, professions that people come from. So, for instance, on our leadership board, we've got some neighborhood presidents. We've also got some other representatives from the local community who are not coders and not designers, but they have a specific domain knowledge. And I think that allows us to have a really unique perspective on the different projects that we take on. And a lot of times what we define as projects, right? So, most times we're thinking of projects as, let's build a thing, right? But sometimes a project can be something as simple as changing the way a service is delivered, right? Or getting community input to create knowledge databases, right? And service databases. And so I think that we've accomplished those things by being really intentional and thoughtful about the way that we're marketing our events and the way that we're wording our marketing materials, and we're able to target not just technical folks, right? So not just coders, not just designers, but it takes a lot of different input. And so I think that it would be really cool to see us replicate that on a national level, and also maybe create like a best practices. I think that it takes a lot of skill, and it can be really hard for a person or just for one group potentially to make sure that their marketing and their wording is it's accessible by all types of people. And so I think that we've been really good at that, and I'd love to see that continue on a larger scale.
Excellent. Thank you, Patrick. All right, we're going to move on to our last prepared question. Laura will be first, but a quick note. If for those of you viewing, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat, and we'll see if time allows. We will try to get through those. We are doing well on time this evening. So the last prepared question that we have, how do you think, so Laura, you're first, and Pat, what's my order? Laura will be first, and then Patrick, you're on deck. How do you think the Code for America Brigade program should fit into the larger civic tech ecosystem? Laura, 2 minutes.
Okay. First, besides Code for America, I don't really know of a larger civic tech ecosystem. I know of civic tech, the concept. I follow a lot of newsletters, and I read about civic tech in LA and San Francisco and New York and Chicago. In Durham, civic tech is Code for America is civic tech for me. I know lots of tech communities, lots of tech meetups. I know lots of civic groups, but Code for America in Durham is civic tech. One of the reasons I got involved with Code for Durham was because I work with government, so I'm passionate about doing things and making an impact. And Code for Durham, Code for America is about innovation, so impact and innovation, but I didn't have to be a coder. So I think those are really great. Because I feel like Code for America, at least in smaller areas, can be very synonymous with civic tech. I would love to see how it can spread beyond even cities. So Code for America is civic tech on the ground for me. And if we're in areas like Durham and Savannah and Portland, Maine, how can we get together and reach out to even more rural areas who have even less exposure to civic tech and open data? So yeah, that's where I think Code for America could go.
Great, thank you, Laura. All right, Patrick, you're next, and Mateo, you're on deck. The question is, how do you think the Code for America Brigade program should fit into the larger civic tech ecosystem?
Yeah, so I guess it'd be two ways. Number one is to be a thought leader. And then the second would be sort of like a talent feeder or a talent source. So I think number one, I see Code for America as being the organization that is setting the standard and pushing forward on different policy and different techniques for the community to engage with government, right? And just use tech as a way to do that, right? So I think the most important thing that we do is to empower citizens, right? And so I see Code for America nationally from a top down kind of engaging in and starting the conversations that lead to more citizen empowerment. And then on the other side of that, I do think that what Code for America has is we've got a whole bunch of civic-minded techies and civic-minded designers and other, I guess, people that are making things happen, like doers, right? And so the most important thing, other than starting the conversation, is making sure that we're also getting people like the people who are participating in this program to be in part of actual government, right? So to go and encourage them to apply for the ad hoc team, right? And to go and encourage them to apply at 18F, and then making sure that they apply for different jobs within their community, and making sure that we've got progressive folks that are holding those positions. And so I think that Code for America has a really unique position in that we've got a huge talent pool that is convening, often. And so I think that those are kind of the two things that I see that are where Code for America can lead in the community.
Thank you, Patrick. Just a reminder to our participants, if you have questions you'd like to queue up, please use the chat feature. We'll go to Mateo. How do you think the Code for America Brigade program should fit into the larger civic tech ecosystem?
Yeah, I think Patrick and Laura both had really, really good answers. So I think I'm going to reiterate some of their points and maybe add some to it. But Patrick was talking about Code for America being a feeder for for people to kind of start their careers in government that might not have been inclined that way before. And that's my story. I started showing up to hack nights about 4 years ago and had no intention of ever working for the city of Austin. But here I am now, and it was really my involvement with Open Austin that led me to this point. And so I think that's a story that a lot of folks have. And I think it's kind of on the other side of that coin. Folks like Laura that work in government, that want to do a great job, and they're passionate about their cities. They're looking at their brigade, their local brigades, and looking at Code for America nationally as a place to get best practices and to kind of expand their careers. I think on that point, it's a lot about solidarity. Like, we're all passionate about these issues together. We're all, showing up late at night like we are tonight, giving up our time for these issues. And so I think part of Code for America is just to be this kind of like a home, like a gathering place and a safe community forum where we can have strong opinions, talk about them back and forth, whether it's about, Angular versus React, or about police accountability versus, police contracts. Like, all these issues are things that we're really driven to improve in our cities. And I think, we look at each other for that type of support. I think what the hardest part about Code for America, this is stealing another point from Laura, is just, she talked about the size and diversity of types of brigades. Code for America as a brigade program has to be really adaptable to all the different cities. You need to be good on-ramp for cities that are just getting started. And they need to be a place, the output of different cities is different. So that's the hard part.
Great. Thank you, Mateo. I'm just going to do a little reflection and say there was a time when all brigade captains could fit onto one Google Hangout. Now we would break that horribly. In fact, we hit that limit several times in the early days. And so it's great to see how much the network has grown, how diverse the network is, and the different needs from all the different brigades. So I don't see any questions I see questions coming in. But since I haven't had a chance to read it yet, I'm going to ask a quick question, and we'll just do 1 minute for this one. And so we will start with Patrick. We're going to do back to the first round here. Patrick, what's one of your favorite projects from another brigade? And just 1 minute to briefly talk about it and why you like it. And Mateo, you're on deck.
So I would have to say Bizport is a project that was done by the Long Beach Brigade. And I think that I like that project because in Savannah, we've got a really weird government setup. Well, it's probably not really weird, but it's complicated in the sense that we've got city business tax certificates, we've got county tax certificates, and we've got state tax certificates. And each of those has a different process that you have to go through in order to get your business license. And there's so much disparate information that's hanging out like everywhere. And so the idea of taking all that information and then putting it into one place is really appealing. And it speaks to a lot of different groups of people because there are so many entrepreneurs in the community. And I also think that it's very easy once you get it ramped up, because it uses a CMS system, it's really easy to get people who are not necessarily tech focused to be able to contribute to that. So yeah, I really like that project. And I also work in economic development. So personally, I just have a bias towards those types of projects.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. All right, Mateo, next, same question to you. And Laura, you're on deck. What's one of your favorite projects from another brigade?
Yeah, this last year, the project that I was really excited about was the Harvey response projects that the Houston Brigade led up. Sketch City is the name of the brigade. A lot of it was around just matching needs. So at first, it was shelter availability. Then it was, needs like diapers, baby food, things like that. I think it was really cool because they provided ways for people to get involved. Like, one of the tasks was like just to call the banks, call the phone, the shelters basically, and get an inventory of needs, put that in a spreadsheet, and then publish that into an API, and then people made apps from there. So it's really cool from a technology standpoint, and just meeting basic needs. And on top of that, it was really cool that it got forked and replicated and improved upon in some of the other unfortunate natural disasters that came through the Southeast. So I think it was a really cool example of a project.
Great. Thanks, Mateo. All right, Laura, same question to you. What's one of your favorite projects from another brigade?
Okay, I'm gonna try to squeeze in two real quick. The first is a repeat from my answer last week. It's the Adopt a Drain project out of San Francisco. I think it's really cool because it's based on the Adopt a Fire Hydrant project from Boston that's been forked into lots of different iterations. And then locally in Durham, we're doing Adopt a Drain, led by a guy named Dane, who sometimes says Adopt a Dane. Hi, Dane. And so I set up a call with San Francisco and people in Durham, and we got to learn about how the project works on the ground. San Francisco has adopted it really well. Like over 1,000 people have signed up to clean their storm drains. And then they hold events offline, and public works workers feel more appreciated by employees through this process, which I think is really cool. The second one is one I just recently found because we're starting to do a focus on voting projects. Philly has something called Elect Me app, and it's all of these random little things that you vote for, like inspector of elections, judge of elections, and it and it says how many people actually voted and like the easiest positions that you could potentially run for. Check it out, Elect Me. That's the name of the app. That's not what I was saying.
We know what you're trying to subliminally do there.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura. All right, we do have a question from our viewership. So we'll give you 2 minutes for this one. And Mateo, you will be first. Laura, you'll be on deck. The brigades have a lot of differences as well as similarities. So how do you plan to better understand and serve the brigades that are different from yours? Mateo.
Yeah. I think it's about just getting to know the people. One thing that was really exciting for me, I think last year, was Luigi from Atlanta gave me a call, and he just wanted to talk about our things we were working on, the problems we had. And we probably spent 30 minutes or an hour just talking through things. I know he did that, and the rest of the NAC team was doing that, kind of doing this little survey format. I think that's great, and I think we could expand on that type of thing. I really love when I'm in a new city like Savannah. Patrick, my little brother goes to SCAD. I'm looking forward to visiting y'all in the fall probably. Nice. And I'm even thinking about doing a road trip, kind of cutting through New Orleans to the southeast, Nashville. So that's, I think that's more work, and I don't think that's the expectation, but I think there's simple things we can do. Like, it's really cool to tune in and see folks in different cities at their hack nights calling into this. I think, this is simple. We could be utilizing the infrastructure that Code for America gives us to, have kind of shared hack nights. A lot of us do this thing on Tuesday nights. So I think it's just about getting to know each other, identifying leaders, hearing their problems, and being that support and solidarity. And I think that takes effort, but I think that's the way it happens.
All right, thank you. Laura, same question to you, and Patrick, you'll be on deck. The brigades have a lot of differences as well as similarities. So what's a plan from you on how to better understand and serve the brigades that are different from yours?
So if we did the strategic plan, one part of it would definitely be having input from the brigade. So to learn about where they are now, funding-wise, membership-wise, what their strengths are, what their concerns are. So that would be a really good overview, but also in-depth with the different brigades. I personally just follow a lot of brigades online and try to subscribe to newsletters without overwhelming my email too much, just to hear from them on the kind of user end. And as far as serving, we're different, but our problems are often the same. And like Mateo was saying, the issues we have, other people have probably faced, and there are people that we can reach out to. So I think how we set those connections up, whether it's connecting around needing help with project management or communications or things like that, finding other people in the network that we can reach out to really mentor us through those differences.
All right, thank you, Laura. Patrick, question over to you. What's a plan to better understand and serve the brigades that are different from yours?
I think, I mean, I would really have to just agree with Laura and Mateo in the sense of it's about relationships, but it's also about being intentional on a national level and making sure that we're creating some type of activities or some type of protocol around making sure that that's happening, right? So I think that, again, collaboration and just talking to people is the best way to do things. So as a NAC member, I think it becomes really important to make sure that you're fostering a relationship with the brigade captains and other people in the brigade, and you're aware of what kind of projects they're working on, and really just focusing on being an asset to them. And I think that understanding, and the way that you do that is just really tapping into, their community action nights and their, activities, and making sure that you're being a part of them and not just your own, and encouraging folks from your own brigade to also be a part of that. And so a simple way to do that is, going back to the first statement about what I think is a priority is creating like regional and state brigade events so that there's just some, organic collaboration that's happening and people are meeting each other and having conversations, but then just also making sure that everyone in the region is aware of what types of activities are going on, and making sure that there's a live stream that's always available, and, just really ramping up the intentional collaboration is the only way that you can get to know what's going on. And also, to quote Mateo again, I think another good idea is finding a way to make sure that the minutes and the projects that the brigades are working on are in a place where we can all get them easily.
All right, great stuff from all of you. I would just say from my experience on the NAC this past year, we did do a lot of listening sessions. We got to pick which brigades we wanted to reach out to, and I got to talk with brigades from Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Tulsa and Albuquerque, and it was just fascinating to know like how different everyone was, and that we all had very similar problems at the same time. So it did take a lot of extra time. It did take a lot of scheduling to make all that happen, but I learned a lot personally about the different brigades and their needs, and so that was very valuable to me. And we did that in the very early stages of the brigade, of the National Advisory Council, because we felt that listening to the needs of the brigades was really important. I think the challenge we ran into was how do we actually scale that? So I'm very interested to see how the regional model can maybe help us approach that and get us to a little bit more intimate based on region. So with that, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I do have another prepared question before maybe we wrap it up here. So we will start with Laura this time, I believe. So this question is there anything specific to the South region that you think the NAC should address? Laura, will give you 2 minutes.
I don't know. It's a huge region. It's by far the largest of all the other regions, population, brigades, number of states. So maybe with the elections, I would actually look at where the regions are drawn the next time around.
Wait, are you already redistricting? We haven't even gotten there yet.
Yeah, I am.
There's no gerrymandering happening here. Sorry, go ahead.
I live in North Carolina. There is. No, I don't think so. I really feel there's more of a urban rural divide than something unique to the South. The call we were on the other day, they were talking about issues of mass transit. That's probably a little different. Maybe global warming's a little different for us. But maybe our food's a little better. But I don't think socially or civically our problems are that different. Again, I see other divides, but not specific to the South region. Yeah. So that's all I got. All
right, Patrick, go to you, and Mateo will be on deck. Do you see, is there anything specific to the South region that you think the NAC should or could address?
I do think there are differences. I don't know if necessarily the NAC could do it in a feasible way, right? But So I'm going to say a couple of things, and they may be assumptions, but I think most of them are true. So I think that in the southern states, our government is largely controlled by conservatives. So I think that provides or creates like a really it creates a problem sometimes when you want to collaborate with government, right? So depending on what level of government you're dealing with, it could determine on how willing someone is to hear you out. I think that progressives tend to be a little bit more amenable to new ideas and to collaborating with tech folks. That could completely be, I mean, in my experience of working with the government, I feel like conservatives have been a little bit, less willing to do that. And so I think that could potentially affect the impact of a brigade. I think that the other issues, I think that the legacy of slavery and the impact of race definitely play a role and complicate or exacerbate certain issues, right? So, I think that the recidivism problem definitely has racial undertones, which are stronger, in my opinion, in the South than they would be, in California, for instance. And so I don't know if that's something that the NAC could necessarily help with feasibly, other than recognizing that there is an extra layer of nuance that comes along with that. That's all I got.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. All right, Mateo, anything specific to the South region that the NAC should address?
Yeah. Well, it's the best region, so there's that. Yeah, no, I think, Laura, you hit on a point. You didn't dig in on it, but, the global warming issues, natural disasters like we've seen the past year or two, I mean, even going back to Katrina, this is something that we prepare for seasonally. It's something there could be more collaboration around. And that was kind of the silver lining that I saw out of the Harvey situation, was how communities organized around that in the civic tech world. So I think you're totally right, just to kind of emphasize your point. Rural-urban divide is something that I was thinking about before you said it. I guess that's an issue everywhere. But the thing that's kind of special in the South, it seems to me, especially, it's not like in a state like Massachusetts or California, your local reps will be Democrats and your state level reps will also be Democrats. I think in kind of the urban situation we have, in Austin is a great example of kind of a blue dot and a red C. And Patrick, you talked about this as well. That prevents certain or presents certain problems, but I think there's also opportunities. Conservatives, at least traditionally, maybe before this current administration, were pretty approachable on issues of transparency and like government accountability. That we kind of put together actually a one-pager about how we would talk to conservative politicians locally. So I think there's opportunities there to win people over and kind of have bipartisan issues that we care about. And yeah, Patrick, you talked about criminal justice. I think there's, just to paint that a little more, in Texas, we have a huge Hispanic population. We have the same issues of segregation from Jim Crow that affected Hispanics. And yeah, and in terms of incarceration, we see, ICE, detaining folks and kind of in the same way, in a privatized way. I think you're totally right on that's a part of our history here in the South. And there's things we can be collaborating on to improve that situation.
Great. So I think this topic came up in a few of the responses about the rural and urban divide. So let's see whose turn it is. I think Patrick, you're going to be the first one for this one, and then Mateo, you'll be on deck. What ideas? And we'll do 1 minute for this one, and then we'll move on to closing statements from everyone. So 1 minute for this, Patrick. What ideas do you have to tackle the urban-rural divide that we see in the brigade, or the opportunities in the network?
Again, I'd have to go back to the original statement of what I think should be a priority for the brigade, having statewide or even regional collaboration, and even like once a year having physical events, because I think that the biggest problem with the rural divide and the urban divide is that there's just a lack of talent there. And so even if there are projects that could really be impactful, there may not be enough manpower or enough expertise, either politically or organizationally or even just technically to scale those projects up. And so, for instance, Savannah and Atlanta is a really good, I think, example of that idea, right? Like Atlanta has a lot of really great technical talent. Savannah has design talent, but not as much senior and mid-level tech talent. And so it can limit the amount of projects that we're able to complete over a certain amount of time. But by working together in a more intentional way and having those avenues there, I think that we could solve those problems or at least understand that there are problems that we need to be aware of.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. All right, Mateo, you'll be next. Laura, you're on deck. What are some ideas you have to address some of the urban and rural opportunities in the Brigade Network?
Yeah, I guess part of the story of Austin, and I think this is happening in a lot of other cities like Austin, we had a significant Black population that lived east of I-35, and they've gotten pushed out due to affordability issues. And they've gone further and further east until they're outside the city limits, outside the county line. And so the opportunity to come to a hack night isn't there for the kids or the high schoolers that might have, had that opportunity in the past, or, the young kind of college students. So what I've seen some other organizations do in Austin on the tech side, I think it was the Chick Tech, which kind of focuses on empowering young women coders. They would go out to the high schools on Saturdays, run their programs specifically they called it Country Girls Code is what they called it. Now it comes back to me. And so kind of like, there's this opportunity. It's not that far for us to drive out, set up special events, target certain schools or community groups.
Great. Thank you, Mateo. That sounds like a really interesting idea. Laura, you're the last one for this one. What ideas do you have to address the urban and rural opportunities in the Brigade Network?
I think it's all about partnerships. The brigades exist in cities, and so it's partnering with groups who have roots in the other communities. And I would assume this is probably the same for other states. The first two groups that come to mind are regional governments. Those are really cool little wonky things. If you don't know about your regional government, you should check it out. There's city, county, and then regional, and then state. So in North Carolina, our regional government covers 13 counties. It includes places like Raleigh and Durham, and then little bitty other places that are much smaller. So working with groups like that, or our community college system to partner, which would have computers and computer labs and people wanting to learn new skills. So I think partnering with those groups around projects and ideas and reaching out to residents.
All right. Thank you, Laura. We're going to wrap up the questions, and what I'd like to do is give each candidate a minute to just wrap up and any closing statements they would like to make. So we will start with Mateo, and Laura will be on deck. Mateo, closing statement, 1 minute.
I don't know. I was going to go downstairs and show you our hack night. So maybe I can get downstairs in time. But yeah, I don't think you should vote for me. There's a ton of really awesome folks. And two of them are in this call. One of them is Vicky. Where's Vicky? There she is. Can y'all see her in her maroon beanie? So anyways, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to y'all. And really looking forward to the next. Yeah, I hope everyone votes.
Great. Thanks, Mateo. All right, Laura, and then Patrick will have almost the final word.
This has been great. I'm excited for Friday at midnight to not feel like I need to tweet or email people or bug people to vote. Thank you, Luigi, for setting up the extra times for us to talk. Patrick, I've never met you, but you seem really cool, and I'd love to touch base sometime. Mateo, we've met before at Summit last year. I hope to see you again. Jason, thanks I feel like this is my Oscars. Thanks for moderating. Thanks to Durham and Raleigh and Charlotte for watching.
Greensboro.
Roll Tide. I'm not even an Alabama person, but that's all I can think of. Thanks.
Cool.
And vote for me. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. All right, Patrick, closing statement. 1 minute.
This is a lot of pressure. I think most importantly, I would just want to say, like, I've really been inspired by what we've been able to do as a brigade. I don't think we've been around for a year yet, or maybe just a little bit over a year, and the amount of encouragement that we've received from, Erie and Luigi, and, just the experiences that I've had so far have been really great. I want to be a part of it. I think that Code for America could be a great instrument for change. And I think it could also be a really good pathway for more people to get involved with tech. I think that one of the best ways for people to get involved with tech is to find something that they're passionate about, or some problem that they want to fix, and hop into it. And I think that Code for America offers a really great avenue to be able to find like-minded people and do that. So I just love being a part of it, and I want to be of service in any way that I can. And, that's really it. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for, hearing me out, and thanks for letting me be a part of this great organization.
Awesome. Well, a special thank you to all the candidates, Patrick, Mateo, and Laura, for joining us tonight. And thanks everyone for coming in. I really appreciate your time. I would say, since this is a South regional candidate forum, one of the things that I had an opportunity to do last year as part of the National Advisory Council, and not that Code for America asked me to do it, but I saw an opportunity to just reach out to the different brigades in the southern region, which at the time we defined kind of Florida to Virginia. And we just had a call for like 90 minutes, and just sharing what was going on in each brigade was super valuable. I think there was a lot of folks probably in some of the viewing areas here, Greensboro, Charlotte, Durham, that may have participated in that. I know Luigi was on the call. It was the feedback I got after hosting that meeting was, I just made so many great connections just by knowing that Nova is doing this, and Code for Richmond's doing this, and Code for Miami is doing this and that. So just, maybe an idea to plant out there for the South region to continue on. And then I see that Erie and Luigi were able to join us here later in the evening after hosting the Midwest Forum. Anything that you want to add, or any closing words before we wrap it up?
I have nothing. No, I'm good.
It's
great to see everyone.
I just want to reflect back what you all probably know, which is that your peers can't wait for you to show up for them. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the network at its best is more than the sum of its parts. And I see reflected in what you've said tonight, and what I know is in your hearts and in your minds, that there's so much more we can accomplish together, and I can't wait.
Great. Thank you, Erie. Thank you, Veronica, for being our host and timekeeper. Great job. And thank you for candidates for staying on time. Again, voting is open until Friday midnight Pacific time. And I think we got the form updated. So be sure to go vote. Continue your campaigns as needed. And again, thank you everyone for your time tonight, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.